I want to ask you something. Have you ever wanted something so badly, so desperately, you could feel it, you could taste it, and then it was right there in front of you, and it was in your hands, and you knew it was yours, and you had it, and you had it, and you were right there, and you were, with every cell of your body, you knew, this is it, I'm here, and then poof, it went away? Anybody? 3, okay. I have had that happen. And the thing is, the poof happened very suddenly because it was all there. And let me tell you a little bit about it. This was a job, and I knew it was my job. It was the job of spiritual leader, of senior minister for a spiritual center. It was before this spiritual center. And I knew I could taste it, man. I had the receipts. I could make the case. And I did over and over with this anger that was so righteous and so painful. I made this case over and over of how unfair it was and how wrong they were and how stupid they were to just poof, I was gone. And I kept this rant going over and over, and I want to say to an audience of 1, but it was to an audience of 2 because my husband was witness to all of it. And then sadness came, because you know that when you lose something that you've got in your hand and it goes away, the anger happens generally first, and then there's grief. And it's a particular kind of grief. It doesn't just hurt, it confuses. It confuses, doesn't it? Because you weren't just hoping, you were trusting. You were trusting. And now you're sitting in the rubble of your certainty, wondering, did I get it wrong? Did I just misread everything? Just everything? Maybe you know this place. Maybe you're there right now. But I have come to realize, and I have come to believe, and not because someone told me, not because I read it in a book, not because I took it in a class, but because I lived and went through this. I lived long enough to see what was being built while I was busy mourning what was lost. And what I got was that God was not absent in that moment. God was not confused. God wasn't late. God was choreographing. God was choreographing. And the failure, that thing I was so certain, that poof, that I knew they were making just a crushing mistake, it was not an interruption of the plan. It was the plan. It was the plan. There's a book about that, if I can remember the title. I don't have the book yet, and I have to get it. I'll come up with it. Anyway, do you remember it, Jamie? The book? There's a book about what's in your way is the way. I mean, I feel like you don't even need to read the book. You just need to remember the title, right? So it was the plan. It was the very step that had to happen for everything that followed it to be possible. So my talk today is the art of successful failure. The art of successful failure. Not how to survive your failures, not how to bounce back later or faster, but how to receive them. Oh, really, Sydney? Ugh. Yeah. How to become that being who can find the wisdom inside the wound. Yeah. Can we find the wisdom inside the wound? That you eventually, not immediately, because it takes time, but eventually you can look back at your worst moments and you can say, oh, well, of course that had to happen. Of course it did. So here's the question I want to invite you to sit with for a while today. What if your greatest failure wasn't a detour from your calling, but the very road that led you there? What if it's not a detour, but it was the very road that led you there? So just breathe for a moment. So there are myths that we have been told, that we have grown up with. And we see these words on every motivational poster, every commencement speech, bumper stickers, every well-meaning mentor. And I've had mentors and I've had tormentors, and it's very important to know the difference. But we've been told that the answer to failure is grit. It's grit, right? Resilience, tenacity. Get back up, try harder, fall 7 times, get up 8. We have been told this over and over. And I don't disagree, but I think we have stopped that conversation about 30 feet too soon because there's more to it. Grit will get you back on your feet. It's that thing that we call will, right? I willed myself through it. Grit will do that. It'll get you back in the room, and it is necessary. But grit alone will get you back to the same door, knocking the same way, expecting a different answer. And here's what happens. Second verse, same as the first. A little bit louder, a little bit worse. You know, it's that idea of doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I know that's very American, but it's also insane. Grit without wisdom is just stubbornness dressed up in inspiration. Grit without wisdom is stubbornness dressed up in inspiration. So the question isn't only, will I get back up? But the question is, what will I carry with me when I get back up? What will you carry with you when you get back up? You know, that fallen 7 times, you get back up on the 8th. What are you going to be carrying with you? Now, when we have a failure, let's discuss, there's a process here, because we don't automatically go to pink fairy dust and unicorns. If we're listening, if we're paying attention, and if we really, really are authentic beings, if we want to be authentic, if we really want to feel and to move further along that journey of what is our calling, our dream, our possibilities. So there are things we go through. There's this thing called the shame loop. Okay, there's a shame loop that happens. So the first thing we do with failure often is we feed ourselves platitudes, bumper sticker advice, right? We try to do that. Okay, well, I'm gonna survive this. It's gonna be okay. First I was afraid, all of that nonsense. But then the next thing we do with failure, and it's quieter, it's more subtle, and it's more damaging. We wear it. We wear our failure. We identify as it. We put that garment on, and it might just be on the inside, but we wear it. We take that thing that happened, the door that closed, the relationship that ended, the business that folded, whatever it is. We move it from the category of event into the category of evidence. Didn't you feel your heart just go, oh? Yeah. And we call it evidence of what we are or what we are not. We call it evidence of what we are worth, what we're not worth, what we deserve or we don't deserve. It becomes evidence. So I have sat with people who are carrying failures from a day ago, a week ago, 15 years ago, 30 years ago, not as memories, but as verdicts, as a verdict. They didn't just fail at something. In their minds, they are a failure. Now, and it might just be one piece of their overall identity puzzle, that thing, but it's still there. And if it happened a long time ago, what we do too is we stuff it down, because, we're ashamed. We've got this part of our identity that says, I just wasn't good enough. They didn't want me, whatever that thing is. So our events become an identity. It becomes part of our identity. And this is the thing I know about shame. Shame makes learning completely impossible. You cannot be curious about an experience when you are busy being condemned by it. And that is the key to our moving through life, is becoming curious, not just about the things in which we have called failures or that, we often do. So this is what we do in this teaching, and it's very interesting. We are so addicted to the idea of we have to have positive thinking. We've got to be positive. We've got to be positive. I got to tell you, positive thinking doesn't work, but you know what does? Productive thinking, positive action. Not positive thinking, because positive thinking is that often, not always, but it can cover that stuff, that pile of stuff, that shame, that mistake, that failure. It's like putting whipped cream on garbage, because if we don't take the garbage out, if we don't really interrogate and look at what's going on, it's just going to get worse and worse, right? So we have to be curious. We have to be curious, because curiosity unlocks that thing, that wall that we've built around us. That protective wall we've built around our heart and our ego. So you cannot ask, what was this trying to teach me, when you are still busy using it to prosecute yourself or to persecute yourself. You can't do it, because you're not going to be able to move into that realm. Shame closes the very door that failure was trying to open. Shame closes that door. And if somebody has already closed a door for us, if we add shame to it, now we've added another door that's closed, right? If that thing that happened was because of somebody else doing something, which so much of what we go through and call failure happens because of somebody else's decision, somebody else is saying, no, you can't have that job. You thought this was you're going to be your spiritual community. It's not. Then there's another lie. It's called the detour lie. The detour lie. It's this thing that happens. We assume a belief, and for those of us in a faith community, this one cuts really deep. We start to believe that failure means we took a wrong turn. Maybe I got the information wrong. Maybe I just wasn't listening. If I had just prayed more, prayed harder, prayed more often, put more vivid pictures on my vision board, if I had just affirmed more loudly when I was stuck on the 405, maybe it all would have happened. Maybe it's just, so we detour from what actually went on, because it's still hard to hold. It's hard to handle. Or maybe you're telling yourself this: if I had just planned better, if I had listened more carefully, the door wouldn't have closed. If I had just. I think that phrase, if I had just, fill in the blank, is a killer. It's a soul crusher, don't you think? If I had just. Oh, stop it. You didn't. You didn't. I remember years ago hearing Dr. David Walker give a talk at Asilomar. And he talked about this, and he said, we sit there, we go, if only they had just loved us more, if only I had been better, if only we had been able to work this out. And he would say, oh, stop it, they didn't like you anymore. It happens, right? It happens. So we tell ourselves that the closed door is a correction. It's a correction. It's a consequence. It's proof that we missed something. Oh, I must have just gotten that wrong. I was listening, I meditated, I was listening for that voice, Sky God. I was waiting for Sky God to talk to me as opposed to, the divine inner wisdom. Or maybe you did. And we think, well, I must have just gotten it wrong. I heard blue and it was supposed to be green. Whatever that is. So I went there. After the job I told you about, the one I was so certain was mine, I spent a long time going back over every decision, every conversation, every moment, asking where did I go wrong. And hear this, because my husband and I were both certain this was it. And it was validated, that conviction of, well, we are being moved into this place, was validated by the fact that the organization that he has worked for many years, when they heard that he would be possibly moving to that area, said, oh, we can put you to work right away. Okay, so that's another sign. It's a sign from God. It's another sign from God. We went to some open houses. We looked at another sign from God, another sign, and we started, and it's not that they weren't, right? It's not that they weren't. But all of these combined together, we take as evidence of getting it wrong. We detour. So what if that closed door isn't a mistake, a consequence, or a correction? What if it's direction? What if it is direction? What if it is direction? What if the failure wasn't where infinite wisdom, the universe, or God, however you are referring to that divine nature that is within and around and through you, what if it's not where they said no, but where God said, not yet. Not here, because what I have in mind requires you to walk through this first. Oh, crap. The detour lie tells you that failure is a departure from the plan, right? Anybody ever have that? I must have just gotten it wrong. I must have gotten it wrong. But what if that thing we've labeled failure is the plan? What if the door that was closed is a very step that had to happen, not in spite of where you're going, but because of it? You know, we teach here, and Emma Curtis Hopkins, who was that teacher of teachers, taught us very clearly that all is God. Not some of God, but all is God. And that we don't have to audition for it. We don't have to prove ourselves worthy. We are already here as creations of God, creations of spirit, and that all is God. And she also taught us to say, this too is God, this too is God, this too is good, this too is a blessing. I demand to see the blessing in it right now. It is a blessing for me. That's what she taught us. And so if we approach it and say, this too is good, this too is God, except for that, we don't get the blessing because we're not available to it. We've been trying to survive our failures. We've been trying to outlast them, outrun them, or quietly bury them where no one will find them, right? Anybody? Oh yeah, another 3. Okay. What if there is another way entirely to understand, to contextualize, if we want to go to our left brain? What if failure is not something to be overcome, but something to be received? Oh, did she just say received? Get your things, honey, we're out of here. Ernest Holmes wrote that nature will not let us stay in any one place for too long. She will let us stay just long enough to gather the experience necessary to the unfolding and advancement of the soul. So that failure didn't stop the gifts. The gifts that I got from that have still continued. And not just like, oh, I learned my lesson from that, but like, oh my God, that's an insight, that's an awareness. Oh my goodness, I would not have that connection, that relationship, that friendship, that understanding if not for that failure. So, receive it, receive it, receive it. If we can adopt a different posture, not a tougher one, not a more disciplined one, but a more open one, that is about receiving. That's the one I keep coming back to. So we're very good at surviving failure. I know that most of us in here have survived a lot of failure. We probably still have the scratches and the claw marks from everything we've tried to hold on to, and other people probably still have the scratches and the claw marks from us trying to hold on to them. We get very good at that. We want to white knuckle through it. We manage it, we minimize it, we hide it, we muscle past it. We treat it like the weather, something to endure because we know it's going to pass. Or we think this too shall pass, this too shall pass. It may pass like a kidney stone, but it's going to pass. Receiving is different from surviving. Receiving is so much different from surviving. Receiving requires you to stop, even briefly, even painfully, and ask to that thing, what did you bring me? What did you bring me? So think about the difference between someone handing you a gift and someone throwing a rock at your head. Physically, both involve something coming at you, but your posture is entirely different. One you brace against, the other one you open your hands for, right? We open our hands. So I'm not asking you to be grateful for your failures in the moment. That would be disingenuous. that would bury it. It'd be dishonest, and frankly, it would be really insulting, I think. The anger is real. The grief is real. We have to feel it. We are feeling beings. We are here to feel, to have that full range of emotion, the joy, the pain, the delight, the confusion, the fear, the love, the comfort, the compassion, and all of that goes along that whole spectrum. We are feeling beings, and thank God we are, because that's why the people who are in our lives, right? Because we feel. So I'm not saying don't feel it, but at some point, not immediately, not on somebody else's timetable. And by the way, doesn't it just offend the stuff out of you when someone looks at you and says, you've been grieving long enough. You should get over that loss. I have 2 friends right now, minister friends, who both in the last month or so have lost husbands, suddenly. And I swear to God, if I heard about anybody going to them and saying, you should probably get over it, I would slap them hard. I know I'm not supposed to be violent, but hey, listen, I raised a kid. I know what that means. And if that grief lasts 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, it's your grief. It's your timetable. And I think that we don't ever really let go of our grief, but we find a place where we can bless it, where we can honor it, where it becomes part of our own tapestry. And that's what makes us richer for it. That's what makes us such precious, beautiful beings, that we honor that. So we go not on someone else's timeline. Let me go back to what I was saying. Receiving asks you to shift from, why did this happen to me? Which is the thing we always want to say, especially in New Thought teachings. What's in your consciousness? How did you create that? Oh, shut up. Not that, but what is this trying to show me? What is this trying to show me? What does Spirit want me to know about this? What is the message here for me? What is the information? Is there learning? What is the gift? I demand to see it. I demand to see it. That single shift that you need in order to turn a failure into successful failure comes from, I believe, that question of, what is this trying to show me? And that's where we break open into curiosity. We break open into that light of asking, oh, what do I need to know here? So here's an image. Imagine a master weaver at work on a tapestry, right? Beautiful, beautiful, lots of colors and vibrant patterns and all of that. It's extraordinary. It's complex in its design. Now, imagine you can only see the back of it. The back of a tapestry is a chaos of knots. It's got loose threads and colors that seem to have nothing to do with each other. You can look at it and see no pattern or wisdom or plan whatsoever. There's no pattern, no beauty, no logic. And you might reasonably conclude that whoever made this had no idea what they were doing. But the weaver is not working from the back. The weaver sees the front. The weaver sees the front, sees the design, sees the creation first. The weaver begins with the end in mind. The weaver knows what the picture wants to look like. The weaver is creating. It's not about from the back. So when I was sitting with the loss of that job, angry, confused, certain that something had gone terribly wrong, I was looking at the back of the tapestry. I was looking at the back of it. Yeah, all I could see were knots. What appeared to be mistakes, threads that seemed to lead nowhere. What I couldn't see, and what none of us can see from inside our failures, what was being constructed on the other side. On the other side. Now we teach that there is a divine plan and purpose. And it's not like there's a plan and that our job is to, like a treasure hunt, like, I hope I find it this time. Oh, maybe this is the clue. Maybe this is the clue. No, the great plan here is for us to be celebrations of life, of love, and joy. We get to personalize and individualize how that looks. We're not doing it wrong. We can't make mistakes. Not when that tapestry is still being woven, which it is until the day we breathe our last. We are here weaving our own, living in our own tapestry. Now, I went to the Old Testament, which is always fun for me. There was this prophet named Jeremiah. Okay, he wasn't a bullfrog, but he should have been. Because Jeremiah was like the cheerleader who cheers the loudest and believes the least. A total yes man. Jeremiah was like, yeah, God, sure, whatever you say. Yeah, that's going to be great. That's going to be great. Of course, of course, of course. Oh my God, it's never going to work. That was Jeremiah. And there's a line from the book of Jeremiah. And here's the divine wisdom, which came from, you can say source, from light, from universal intelligence, from God, from ketchup, whatever it is, that this line of wisdom was, I know the plans I have for you. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a future and a hope. I know the plans. Now, God doesn't say, I'm going to make it really easy and comfortable, or I'm going to make you have to guess at this. I'm going to be passive-aggressive sky God for a while. He doesn't say they will be obvious. They will never look from the inside like a disaster. God says, not you will know, not it will be clear all the time, but God says, infinite wisdom, that presence, that power, that divine harmony that has created and sustains planets in their orbit, the sun rising and setting, the moon gleaming, whether or not, oh my God, the astronauts, right? But that wisdom says, I know. I am the know. I am that. The weaver always knows what the back of the tapestry is becoming, and knows that, and the knot that makes no sense from where you and I stand, the closed door, the lost position, the fallen plan, is sometimes the very knot that holds the whole picture together. So, let's fast forward. That job that I did not get, that I really wanted, that I knew was mine, because I knew the founder of that center. I had known that founder since I was about 11 years old. I thought, this is meant to be. Of course it's meant to be. Yeah, we do that. Oh, it's absolutely meant to be. And then it fell through, and we licked our wounds for a while. Then I started to breathe again. I sat with, there was a middle section in there. It was quite messy. A lot of whining, complaining, bitching, and moaning, and going to other people and whining and moaning to them. But God bless them, because they sat in silence and they sat with me. They didn't try to give me nuggets of wisdom. They just sat with me and allowed me to go through my stuff, the process I was going through. And I got wisdom from this. And the wisdom, there were three things. I got wisdom about myself, and my strength, my capacity, my talent, and that which was continually growing within me, my divine connection, even deeper than I thought it to be. I got wisdom about others, the compassion, the gentleness, the understanding, and the simple strength that others offered me. When you have sat in the rubble of your own certainty, you become a different companion to people sitting in theirs. And the people that were there for me had gone through this. They had gone through it. They didn't offer silver linings too quickly, which is what you and I, this is what we get from the experience. We don't just automatically come up with platitudes. We learn to be present with someone in the dark. And the third wisdom that comes through failure, the one that takes the longest and goes the deepest, is the wisdom about God, the infinite presence that is intelligence itself. The knowing that we are talking about infinite intelligence, not big dummy in the sky, but infinite intelligence, here to express through us. God is not seeking to control us, but to fulfill us in the broadest, greatest way possible, because that's how God shows up in earthly form, through us. through joy, not through limitation, through joy. So we grow into understanding. Getting an idea that it's not about the separation of maybe God will reach down and fix this, but now we are in co-creation with the divine spirit. Now we're partnering, we're collaborating with God. We realize that God is actually present in the obstacle itself. So I'm getting to understand that failures are not the interruption of our formation. They're the process of it. Ernest Holmes wrote, "We do not save that which was lost. We merely discover that which needs to be found." And it's in that process that we discover that which needs to be found within ourselves. Our connection to the divine, our reliance upon that wisdom, our turning within, our fundamental unity, our oneness with, that's the goal, people. That's the goal. That's what we are here to realize and to live from, our oneness with. We are so enamored of separation, of duality, separation from God, separation from love, separation from peace, separation from health, separation from wholeness, that we live in this duality, and most of us are not even aware of it. There is this trance of separation that goes on. And so when something happens in the world, because we have become so reliant on feeling good because of what happens in the world, so when something happens, whether it's international, national, local, it's our political leadership or someone in our family, we take that in as our identity. We claim it as our reason to not succeed, and we put it on as a garment that says, "This is why I'm not worthy." Instead of remembering, I am one with, one of, one as the divine. The divine. I'm not here as a mistake. I am here as the divine. You are here as the divine, as the divine, as the divine. And not one person in this room has any more or any less than anybody else. The only difference is the degree that we are revealing, realizing it, and becoming willing to say yes to knowing who we truly are. So, this can sound abstract, but let me tell you how the story got really, really interesting. I told you that I knew that this was my job. I knew it was it, everything was coming together. But what's interesting is what happened next. We went through the anger, the loss, and I'm telling you this not because confession is good for the soul, but permission is. So you've got permission now to really tell your story. Find someone you trust and tell your story. Not so that you can anchor in story and become a good storyteller, but so that you can allow yourself and everybody else the gift of moving through that process of growing into love and wholeness. So, in the middle of all this, another job appeared as spiritual leader, senior minister. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. It's closer. It's near where I grew up. Money's better. It's a fun community. I like what they're doing down there. That's pretty good. And that's when I really began to breathe. And I got, there's more going on here. There's more going on. It's kind of like the way the dawn works. The sun rises and the light begins to fill the sky. It's not the light switch comes on and suddenly the sun is there. But it began to come up in me. Something had been happening that I couldn't see because I was deep in my wound, inside my disappointment. Now, this new one looked really good. I stayed calm. I breathed. I even interviewed, and I was a finalist for this. There were two of us who were finalists for this particular community. And I began to realize that God's choreography had been going on the whole time. The whole time. But if you've ever been involved in a show or just even gone to a show, not every dance happens at the same time with everybody all the time. There's a setup that has to happen. There was a setup going on. There was a setup, a divine setup. So one day, out of the blue, the phone rang. And it was Dr. Mark, I'm going to cry when I get to this, here at North Hollywood, my original spiritual home, the place where I became a practitioner over 20 years ago, this place where I have lots of friends and connections. Many of you I've known since the 90s when I first started here. This community where the roots are deep and the community is thriving spiritually, educationally, creatively, financially, in ways I could see, in ways I couldn't see, and yet I felt at the moment I walked through the doors because I was home. He wasn't calling me to invite me to become a candidate. He wasn't calling to schedule an audition or let me know a process was beginning or ask me to submit resume materials or anything like that to compete for consideration. He was calling me to offer me the job. He said, I know, right? And in such a perfect way, he said, I need you to come on board. This is an onboard position. You will be onboarding for probably 2.5 to 3 years because I'm getting ready to retire, but I want to make sure that this community is in hands that understand it, that love it, and that will embrace it and help lift it and keep it moving forward. No hoops to jump through, no proving myself to people who didn't know me, no performing for a room full of strangers who would then deliberate about my worthiness. None of that. Just, we want you, it's yours if you want us. Oh, hell yes. If I had gotten that first job, it wouldn't have happened. Even if he had called, I would have been ensconced in this other role or the other role or the other, because I candidated for other churches as well. This would not have happened. There was a divine choreography that I needed to be grown. You know, there's a country song called The House That Grew Me. And that's how I feel. It is, this church grew me, but this principle has grown me. This consciousness has grown me. This understanding that there is that which grows me, that grows us. And so what I want you to know is that there were things that almost broke me when that thing happened, right? And I put that stuff it's like a folder. And the folder was called Things That Almost Broke Me. I kept the folder closed, but what I didn't know is what I know now. The folder wasn't where I kept my wounds, it's where I kept my education. Everything I have shared with you today has come from that folder about education, about growing, about understanding. So I'm going to ask you something. I'm going to ask you one thing. What is the failure you are carrying right now? Whether it happened last week or 15, 20 years ago. That one. You know the one I mean. It just came to mind. This week, I want you to take that failure out of the folder where you've been hiding it and tell someone you trust about it. Again, not as confession, not to be absolved, but as a student. Tell them what happened and then say out loud, I think this is what it's trying to teach me. And you may not even know, but be willing to say it. Be willing to ask, what is it I am supposed to know now? Because a few years from now, someone's going to come to you. Someone you love is going to fail at something. Might be a child, a friend, someone you work with that you deeply care about. They're going to come to you in that raw, exposed place. And they're going to be in pain. They're going to feel alone and ashamed. And because of what you are choosing in this moment here today to do with your own failures, you will be a sacred space for them. Because we are here to gift each other love and community. That's what we are here to do. And you're not going to rush them through it. You're going to be present. You're going to be able to look them in the eye and say, I know this place, and I promise you, there's something here worth finding. And that, my beloved, beloved community, that's the gift that comes only from the art of successful failure. And now it is yours to give. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Let's go within. So we turn within to that place, that quiet space, that peace that absolutely has never turned away from us. We turn to it, knowing that right where we are, that presence is, that God is, that power is. And we are willing now to recognize and to see ourselves in it, to see our lives in it, to know that we are completely held, we are embraced, and we are precious, for we are divine creations of spirit. So we say yes to growing, yes to knowing, yes to unfolding, so that we might rise up and lift others in our rise as well. So I bless this church. I bless all churches, all paths to God, all mosques, all temples, all ashrams, all sanctuaries, all cathedrals, all places where people gather and where the light begins to shine brighter. For truly that is what we are here to do, is to love each other, to commune with each other, to love, to hold, to hug, and to be that light. And I know that we are that light because we are here as the one love, the one present in all of its diversity, all of its variety. How wonderful to know that we get to do this. And I am grateful that this gift keeps on giving, that we keep on growing, that we find those ways to learn, to grow, to share, and to shine always brighter, always brighter. So I release this word into the activity of God's law, knowing it is so, knowing it is done. And I say, and so it is. And together we say, amen.